welcome everybody. Thanks for waiting with us here. I'm JB Bird from the University of Texas at Austin. We thank you for joining us for this chance to meet our new coach, Steve Sarkisian. We're very mindful of the coach's time, although you wouldn't know it from the long wait we just went through, so I'm very sorry about that. But he has a national championship to get ready for, so this is going to be a quick call. Texas Athletics is going to have a longer call around January 12th or 13th. John Bianco and company are going to set that up, so they'll be reaching out to you. And that call will be a chance to interact a bit more with Coach Sarkisian after he's done his work on the national championship and he has more time. So let me quickly go through the format of this call, and then we'll get right into it. We're going to have brief opening remarks from three university leaders. We have the chairman of the University of Texas System Board of Regents, Kevin Eltife. We have the president of the university, Jay Hartzell, and we have our athletics director, who you all know, Chris Del Conte. After their remarks, Coach Sarkisian will have some brief opening comments, and then I'm going to open it up to you for questions for Coach Sarkisian. And this call is a little different than what you'll do with your normal Texas athletics media calls. We'd like you to put the questions in the chat. We want to be efficient and quick on this call. So if you have questions for Coach Sarkisian, please put them in the chat, and you can start putting those in at any time. And then I'll go through your questions and we'll read them out, and we'll cover those in the call and wrap up quickly. And if there are additional questions, we can follow up. If they're questions for us at the university, we can follow up after the call. But again, you're going to have a chance to have a big interaction with him in January. So please look forward to that after he's got through his work on the national championship. So with that, let me just start it off with asking for some opening remarks from the chairman of the Board of Regents, Kevin Eltife.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us today to welcome Coach Steve Sarkisian to the University of Texas. Today is a monumental day for the Texas Longhorn football program. At the University of Texas, we have a proud tradition of competing at the highest levels amongst the elite programs in college football. And in honor of that tradition, we never settle for anything short of excellence. We don't do things halfway. We continue to challenge our leadership, coaches, student athletes, and staff to take hold of what it means to be a Texas Longhorn and collectively compete for and achieve our greatest ambitions. President Hartzell, Athletic Director Chris Del Conte, and I firmly believe that Steve brings the coaching experience, leadership, and determination necessary to deliver the highest level of success of our program, both on and off the field. We are excited to begin this new chapter and welcome Steve to Longhorn Nation.
Thank you. President Hartzell.
Great, thank you. And I want to say thanks to all of you for joining us today. And especially thanks to Coach Sarkisian for coming to what I often describe as the best university and the best city and state and the best country in the world. It's a great fit for us, and I'm really excited you're here. As the chairman talked about, we recruit the best and brightest to come to the University of Texas. We want all of our students to be positioned to be the best in whatever they pursue. Hiring Steve Sarkisian is a critical investment in our football program's future to position our student athletes to be the best. And it's good for all of Longhorn Nation. Our entire community benefits from a healthy and successful athletics program. Naming Steve as our coach gives our football program the necessary guidance and expertise to drive further success. I can't wait to see what the team accomplishes under his leadership. Before I hand it over to Chris, I want to hit on two things that I can imagine you all will want to know more about. First is our process and how we got here. As part of our process over the last couple of weeks, we had a chance to get together with Coach Sarkisian and get acquainted. That led to the picture that you all saw in the press release today. After his game last night, we reached out again to re-engage in a conversation. And then today we were able to finalize the deal for him to become the next head coach at Texas. Secondly, I know many people will have questions about the financial implications of this decision. I want to make sure it's clear to all of you and everybody that Texas Athletics is a self-sustaining arm of UT that fully supports itself. It's among the very few national athletics programs that gets no revenue from student fees, institutional or state sources. Far from competing with money for students, Texas Athletics historically generates funds for students, contributing back to the academic side of the university. We've been able to contribute money to the academic enterprise because we invest in our coaches, our facilities, and our athletics programs. By making these strategic investments, we can meet long-term financial goals that allow us to provide money for the academic budget. I view Coach Sarkisian as a fantastic investment, one that will benefit our student athletes, our alumni base and our fans, and the ultimate health of our football program, athletic department, and benefits that those produce for our academic mission. With that, I'll stop and hand it over to Chris.
Good evening, everybody. So good to see you. What an awesome day for the University of Texas. I am super excited today. But as we move forward, I want everyone to know that we're going to have, after the national championship game, we'll have a traditional press conference. Hopefully everyone will be in person, 6 feet apart, of course, and we can have what we would think is a traditional press conference. Today is just for us to welcome Steve and to thank him for taking this unbelievable opportunity to come lead our program. I do want to just echo that my sense that Tom Herman today was a difficult conversation with us with Tom, but that was a decision collectively that we made moving forward, and we found the right man to lead our program. Steve, I've known Steve for a long time. His success at USC when I was at Arizona, he was the offensive coordinator. I saw what he did and built that team. Him and actually was the quarterback coach with Norm Chow. And when they hired and what they went on to there, he was actually offered to be the head coach of the Oakland Raiders and said no. Went on to Washington, did an amazing job there, 0-12 when he took over, built that program. And you look at along the way with NFL experience and what he brings to the table, we were just so excited for him to come lead our program, excited for him, his staff, and who he's bringing to the University of Texas, but more importantly, the character that he is and who he is tremendous and great human being. And I am just honored that he has taken this opportunity to lead our program because, as President Ault said, we expect to win championships. We want to win championships. That's what we're all here for. And the pedigree of winning championships at USC and working for Pete Carroll, and now with that at Alabama with Nick Saban, you combine those things with who he's bringing to the table with him. It's just a tremendous day for the University of Texas. So, Steve Sarkisian, welcome to the family. We're so excited that you're here. And for all of us, all eyes are on Texas and all eyes are on you. So it's a great day for the University of Texas. Welcome aboard, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, and echoing that welcome, we'd love to hear from you, Coach Sarkisian. We're really anxious to hear what you have to say. So we'll just kick it over to you for some opening remarks.
Of course. First and foremost, I'd like to echo what Chris had to say. Thank you guys for taking the time this evening to get together. I have to say I'm a lot of emotions, but all the good ones, right? I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm honored. I'm humbled to be named the head coach at the University of Texas. I mean, this is, I have a quick story to tell. This morning, I was on the phone with my parents. My dad's 84 years old, and I mentioned about, I think I'm getting this Texas head coaching job. And he said, about 20 years ago, you told me, Dad, that's the job. That's the best job in America. And it's amazing to think here we are, 15 years removed from me standing on the opposite sideline of Vince Young running the end zone at the Rose Bowl, of being named the head coach of Texas. It's a tremendous opportunity for me. Super excited about the team just in general. I think this is a very talented football team. I've got a chance to watch them a few times this season. There's a lot of talent on this team. I think there's championship talent on this team. Clearly, there's work to be done or a change wouldn't be made. And so that's a responsibility of mine that we have to get that done. We will, in my opinion, assemble the best, if not one of the best staffs in America. And then our job ultimately is to put our young men in the best position to be successful. And whether that's on the football field, in the classroom, or in life. And I think all three of those things go hand in hand when you talk about developing a program and sustaining a program over an extended period of time of a championship caliber team. So all in all, this is an exciting time for me. What an amazing opportunity. And I'd just like to thank President Hartzell, Chairman Chris, everybody involved that came to the conclusion that I was the right man for the job. And clearly it's time to roll our sleeves up and go to work. I think, it's been pretty well documented. I'm going to stay with Alabama here for another week until we get through the national championship game, which I think is the right thing to do. I made a commitment to Coach Saban and to these players and to see that through in the championship game. And then directly after that, I'll be in Austin, and we will go to work. And I think we've got some great days ahead of us. But like I said, there's plenty of work to be done. But there's a lot of tools in the shed to get that work done. So looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you again.
All right, well, let's start in with the questions for Steve. I want to start with those. So from Bob Ballou, how much were you craving the opportunity to run a program as a head coach again after 5 years away?
Well, I think for me, what was unique, I've had opportunities to interview. I've had opportunities to been offered jobs, head coaching jobs over the last couple of years, and ended up not taking them. I was in a little different scenario, clearly. I'd been a head coach 2 separate times at 2 great universities, at the University of Washington and University of Southern California. So it wasn't so much that I wanted to be a head coach. I just couldn't wait to be a head coach again. I wanted to make sure when I took a head coaching job that it was the right job, that it was a job that I felt like had the resources in place, had the people in place. Ultimately, it was a university that we could recruit to, and that we could win championships in. That had the rich history, had the traditions. And so when this opportunity came, then I jumped on it. I'm very, I looked at every job separately, and nope, that's not the right one. Nope, that's not the right one. And when Texas came along, it felt right initially and continued to feel right. The more I got engaged, and the more I started to research it. This just felt like an awesome opportunity for me. So I knew I wanted to be a head coach again. I thought it could happen again, but I was just hopeful that the right job would come, and definitely felt like this was the one.
Great. Question from Chip Brown. How are you different as a coach now than when you were at Washington and USC?
Well, I think one, with age comes maturity, right? When I took over at Washington, I accepted the job at 33, and then I was 34 years old. And you learn a lot about yourself. When you become first-time head coach, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. There's so many things flying at you. And when you're a young head coach, you try to tackle them all on your own. And at times you don't instill enough trust and faith in the staff that you hire. And I think now, having spent some time in the National Football League, having spent obviously the last 2 years with Coach Saban here at Alabama, you realize the value in the staff, and why you hire such a good staff is to put people in place to do what you're asking them to do, what they were hired to do. And in turn, I think that takes some of the burden off of your shoulders as the head coach, and allows you to manage people, and not overreact to some of the other things that are going on, and allow those people to do what they do. And I think that keeps you focused. I think it keeps you grounded. I think the other side of it is, when you've gone through essentially what I've gone through, really in the public eye, I don't want to say you're humbled, but you are. But in reality is you do the soul searching, you dig into yourself, you do the work, and you try to be the best version of Steve Sarkisian every day. And the best version of Steve Sarkisian every day is what will be best for our student athletes. And I think that, I've grown a lot. From a maturity standpoint, I think I've grown a lot of just understanding the players and the student athletes that we deal with every day. Because ultimately it's not always about winning the game. Winning the game will be the result of the process that we put in of putting our players in the best position to be successful in life. And when we can teach them the discipline off the field, then ultimately we'll get the discipline on the field. So a lot of those things I wasn't nearly as tied into when I first took over at Washington, and then ultimately at the USC. But through coming here to Alabama and really assessing how Coach Saban does some things, and then looking back on maybe the mistakes I made, I really believe that we've got the right formula for success here at Texas.
Well, this is a natural follow-up to that from Matt Marinchak. Over the past few years, many fans have asked, is Texas back? How do you plan on bringing Texas back?
Well, at the end of the day, first of all, I'd like to say this is a talented roster. There's plenty of good football players on this team to go win a championship with. But aside from that, I think everything, if you just start from the ground up, we have to recruit really well, and we have to recruit really well in state. We cannot let the top talent in the state of Texas leave the state of Texas. It cannot leave and go to the SEC or the Big Ten or for that matter. I think the second thing is we have to be a great developmental staff. I think we have to develop our players. And again, that it's easy to look at on the football field, but making sure we're developing them in life and developing them in the classroom. And then the third thing, I think we have to instill some core standards and beliefs in the program that the players live by. And that's a standard of excellence. And that comes from discipline, that comes from mental and physical toughness that's needed to persevere and to win those close games late in the fourth quarter. But again, all of those things are, I say this all the time, they're easy to say in an introductory press conference. The real work is doing the work, and it's putting in the work, and it's holding people accountable, and having players on your team that are great teammates and accountable to one another, that do have the discipline and the mental and physical toughness to persevere. Because ultimately, the game of football is the best sport in the world, right? It's the ultimate team game, and you need everybody in that locker room as a driving force in the same direction. And that's my challenge as a head coach, to get that to get done.
And a slightly different version of that same question. We've heard similar questions from a number of people here on the thread, but we've heard this from John High. We've heard from past two UT head coaches about how they'd come in and turn things around. It didn't happen. What makes you different?
I can't comment on what previous people said or didn't say or did and did not do. All we're going to focus on is who we are. And one of the keys to that is, you have to have a real foundation for what you believe in and what we believe in. And like I said, when you start talking about discipline, you start talking about mental and physical toughness, when you start talking about developing players and again, on the field and off the field in their personal lives, and you start to develop a culture of one and one driving force moving in a common direction for a common goal, then we don't focus so much on the outcome of that we're back or the outcome of that there's a championship. Those things will come if we put in the work and we trust the process that we're in. And it's not to shy away from the question. We all want Texas to be back. We all believe Texas should be back. That's why I'm taking this job. But the reality of it is we have to put in the work. And then when you put in the work, then you get the outcomes that you desire. So, there's no guaranteed promises to this thing here. It's, you got to put in the work, and we'll go to work, and like you said, we'll put together a great staff. We'll recruit really good players and really good kids on and off the field, and then we'll develop a culture and a unity on our team that can't be broken.
Thank you. And then Danny Davis asks, Steve, how will you juggle your duties over the next week or so with Texas and Alabama, other than showing up for this news conference? And was there any hesitancy from Nick Saban to let you continue working?
I'll start backwards. Coach Saban was tremendously supportive. I owe a great deal to Coach Saban. I mean, without his guidance and the opportunity he gave me at Alabama, this would not be possible. So I owe a great deal to Nick Saban and the mentor that he is to me, and everybody at Alabama, whether it's President Bell or Athletic Director Greg Byrne. Those people are fantastic to me. Coach Saban wants to win this national championship. So no, he didn't push me out the door. We're here, we're working, we're going for it. But he's definitely very supportive of the opportunity I have here at Texas. From a juggling of duties, it's pretty clean. First and foremost here at Texas, it's assembling a staff. Right. So we'll work on those things here, and CDC and I will start working our way through that of hiring the best staff in America, and then starting to forge those relationships with current players on the roster. I've already had one team meeting with them, and we'll continue to meet with them separately along the way. But in the meantime, it's a preparation. Like I said, I made a commitment to Alabama and to these kids here. So from a game planning standpoint and a preparation for that game standpoint, that's where my focus will be. So I've done this before. I coached the Rose Bowl for USC when I had taken a job at the University of Washington in mid-December. So I kind of know what it looks like. The only difference now is with some of the COVID restrictions, the recruiting factor is a little bit different, clearly. And then obviously some of the travel is a little bit different with some of the limitations out there right now.
Speaking of the two different conferences, the Big 12 is home to innovative offenses. This is from Joe Cook. How do you think your offensive system will translate to the Big 12 conference?
Well, I believe it'll translate well. Clearly it was effective in the Pac-12. It was effective in the National Football League. It was effective in the SEC so far. So I think it'll translate well. It is an attacking style of offensive play, but a physical brand of football. We believe in running the football, and then in turn creating things in the passing game off of the running game. And I've been fortunate enough. I've had 1,000-yard rusher every year I've been calling plays in college football. So there's definite belief in running the football, but the balanced attack I think is what makes us go. And so when you put it all together, now you really have to recruit all the positions, right? I mean, we're not just a quarterback driven system, but we definitely need a quarterback to make this go and play at a high level. We've been fortunate enough to have, I think it's 5 or 6 top 10 NFL draft picks that played quarterback in the system with me. So all in all, it's a great system. It's quarterback friendly, but yet the runners are explosive. They catch the ball out of the backfield. Clearly, the receivers, hopefully we've got a Heisman Trophy winner here coming at one, either the quarterback or the receiver position here from Alabama here in a couple days. But to make all of that go, you need really good offensive linemen and balanced attack to do that. So they got to be run blockers and pass protectors. So it's a great system because it's versatile. So I really believe it'll translate well to the Big 12.
Thank you. A couple media members have asked where you're at with some of the personal challenges you faced when you were at USC.
Yeah, I'm actually doing great. Again, anytime you go through something like I went through, and you make the personal decision to get the help that you need, it's a process. It's a process to get that done. And I've put in a lot of hard work. I'm proud of the work that I've put in. I know I'm a better man today than I was a little over 5 years ago. And that's just not as a football coach, but as a man, as a father, as a husband. And all those things are very important to me because in the end of the day, when you're sitting in a young man's living room or you've got a young man on your team that is going through something, you have real life experiences like I have now to lean on that I think they can relate to. That they can value that I'm being sincere with them. And at the end of the day, they can recognize the work that you put in and who you are and how you treat people. So I'm proud of the work that I've done. But I will say when you battle what I battle, you have to work on it every day. This isn't just a one-time thing and you take the happy pill and everything's good all of a sudden and you never have to work on it. I work on it every day. I work on it, whether it's through meetings, through a sponsor, whatever that may be. That's important to me. That's important for me to be the best football coach at the University of Texas that I can be. And so that's what I do.
Thank you very much. From Taylor Estes, we have a question about the current roster. Have you had a chance to look at the current Texas football roster? And with Sam Ehlinger not yet making a public statement on his future, do you anticipate trying to keep him on the roster for a 5th season if possible?
Well, clearly Sam's a heck of a football player. I mean, this guy is a tremendous competitor. He's somebody that I'd be remiss not to try to keep around. So definitely there's a phone call. There's a phone call coming. But we'll see. He's got a personal decision to make. I'll try to guide him as best I can and maybe some of the limited discussions that we'll have, but I'll try to guide him as best I can with some of the information and knowledge that I have of what it looks like for him now and maybe what it would look like for him in a year. But those are all conversations down the road. Like I said, I do believe this is a talented roster. I think we saw that on display in the Alamo Bowl. I thought there There was a lot of young, talented players that were playing that night that were athletic, long, physical, all of the really cool attributes you look for in a player. I thought there was a lot of young players doing that. But again, clearly I'm going to have to get in there and start to dig into the individuals and who does what well, and then try to get them to put them in position to do the things they do well. And then what do we need to work on, or maybe where are we limited that we need to fill the void.
Thank you. This is a question from Kirk Bowles. What is the outside perception of the Texas football program over the last 10 years?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing, whenever we would kind of just talk in general is what's wrong? Why isn't Texas in the college football playoff again? Like what's wrong? And nobody really knows, because if you're not in the building, you don't really know. I think Texas is held in such high regard in my world, right? In my community of coaching and college coaching, that I think everybody realizes what Texas has the capability of being. And now it's my responsibility to, make the perception become a reality of that Texas is a perennial powerhouse, that we are always in the discussion year in and year out for the college football playoff and a Big 12 championship. And ultimately, that's what we need to go do. And so I think the perception is what we all think Texas should be. And now it's our job to make the perception a reality.
Thank you. A question from Jeff Howe. What will be the process of putting together a coaching staff, including giving current staff members a chance to interview for their jobs?
Yes. I'd already had a brief meeting earlier today with all the current staff members. But I'm planning on meeting with all of the current staff members individually. In turn, we'll start dialogue and interviews with coaches that are not on staff. And I say this all the time about putting together a staff is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle, right? It's the right pieces. It's not always the prettiest pieces, but it doesn't form what you want it to form. So there's definitely a process to it. We'll work our way through it. We'll be diligent in what we do, but yet we need to get it done pretty swiftly. With the second signing period coming up here in a month, we want to make sure we solidify the remaining spots we have in this class, as well as getting people on board and getting boots on the ground with our current roster.
Well, Coach, I could listen to you all night. You're bringing hope to me as a Texas fan. I'm really excited and love listening to you. I'm going to go with one last question. And for the reporters, if you have some of your questions that aren't for Steve, we'll follow up after the call, but we want to let him get back for all the work he's doing for Alabama, but just for one more week. So the last question I have from Cedric Golden: what's your message to the fan base that is 11 seasons removed from a national title game?
Well, I think the message is this. I want when people watch us play, that they're proud of the brand of football that we put on the field. And that's a physical brand of football, one that's built on toughness, one that's fast, one that's attacking, and one that, they want to be able to brag to their buddies to say, did you watch Texas play today? And, that takes time. But my belief is we're going to put something together here that is going to be exciting, that is going to be fun to watch. That's going to be attack driven, whether that's on offense, defense, or special teams, but is also a disciplined, physical style of football that is going to be needed to win championships.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to let the reporters know that we will get a recording of this call out to you in case you didn't get all the notes from the coach's answers. And we really appreciate the time you took with us, Coach Sarkisian. And reminder to everyone, you'll have a lot more time to talk with him here in just less than 2 weeks, after the national championship game, and get to know him better as we look forward to doing over the next many years. So appreciate your time today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. Look forward to meeting you all in person, and hook 'em.